This is A's Cast Live, your comprehensive look at the Oakland Athletics.
And the pitch is swung on, hit the right field, hit deep. Whitefield going back at the track, over his head, and over the wall. Do you believe that?
And 29 other MLB clubs.
Ramirez with a drive to deep right, away back, goal!
Hey, gets a bomb out there by the Rocks. And boy, oh boy, this third inning is now showtime.
It is a Judgian blast. All rise. Here comes the judge.
Join us as we take you inside the baseball universe, from humidors to spin rates to game-changing moments. We have you covered. Spend your afternoon with us next from the town, only on A's Cast Live. Here's Chris Townsend.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to A's Cast Live from the Athletic Club in Oakland. It is our final fans watch party of 2022 as the Athletics are going to be finishing their season on the road, T-Mobile Park in Seattle. The last 3 games on the road. Then, of course, we'll be back home to finish the season in Oakland against the Angels. We've got a ton of stuff going on in Major League Baseball right now. And we've got a lot going for you today. Warming up in the bullpen, we have Jessica Kleinschmidt is right over here to my right. The voice of the Coliseum, Amelia Schimmel, is going to be here. They're going to be here in moments. A little bit later on today, our national baseball columnist from The Athletic. Some fascinating things. We've taped it already going on. Eno Sarris will be here. And then, of course, it's Friday. It's the last Mark Kotsay show on the road from his office in Seattle. So that's what we have going for you. And, of course, drink specials, prizes. We're going to be playing bingo. Last Dive Bar is here. They've got everything from beer steins. They've got memorabilia. We've got shirts. We've got so many things going on. So this is a party. It's an A's party for you guys. Come see us here in Oakland, Athletic Club Oakland, and we're going to be here throughout the entire game. Bingo is going to start about 5 o'clock. We're going to have drink specials. Who doesn't, Ray? Who doesn't like drink specials?
I can't think of a single person who doesn't.
Are you ready to partake in drink specials?
Maybe not on the air, but we'll see.
I mean, I think it's a Friday. You may need to loosen up. You've been a little stressed lately, filling in for Cody. I think tonight might be a night you need to just relax a little bit.
You know what? I think you're onto something there, Townie. We'll see.
All right. So everybody come out and see us here at the Athletic Club in Oakland. You're going to love it. I wish we could actually take our camera and show you the last Dive Bar setup. It actually is phenomenal. So it's not only gift packages that they have, but it's individual prizes that they'll be doing. Of course, here with the A's, we've brought a bunch of stuff here. So it's drinks, specials, food specials, and free stuff to give away. Who doesn't love all of that? Well, let me tell you something. We've got a lot going on in baseball today. I mean, a lot. You start looking down the line here. Mets, Braves, going to start here in moments from Atlanta, weather permitting. I haven't really checked the old Doppler to see how the weather is. Obviously, we know about Hurricane Ian and the devastation. Our thoughts and prayers go out to everybody there in the Southeast, all the way through Florida as it's making its way up through Georgia and South Carolina. So, obviously, that's first and foremost what we care about. And we, once again, thoughts and prayers. But there is that big series going on. It's the biggest series in baseball. We will get to that. But you're looking at Mets and Braves, huge. You got Aaron Judge, who now Aaron Judge moves on to take on the Baltimore Orioles back at home in the Bronx. They can celebrate 61 home runs, tying the American League record and tying Roger Maris. Amazing. And now he goes for 62. A lot of controversy there. We'll get into that in a little bit. Not really controversy. It's just you kind of stand on one side or the other. And not going to tell anybody that they're wrong. I know Jessica Kleinschmidt and I will talk about this in the A's Total Access show, our pregame show. There's certain people believe one thing, certain people see it another. And really, I've said it now multiple times. It's the sad thing about baseball that we're at this point, that we didn't do anything about it. And we've just allowed it just to keep going. And some people are cool with that. But then now it rears its ugly head every single year with guys getting into the Hall of Fame and not getting into the Hall of Fame. It's all the stuff your sport doesn't want to deal with. It's all the stuff your sport really doesn't want to have around it. It's like this. It's this black cloud that really started late 90s into the 2000s that you thought at some point, it will go away. But that black cloud has just been raining, and it just keeps following the game, and it has never gone away. And we're now at a moment we should be celebrating huge. Some are like, what's the big deal? Like we had on Sam Blum from yesterday from The Athletic, who covers the Angels, who was like, I don't even know why we're breaking away for his at-bats. I mean, you got people who work in our industry's cold, boy. Let me tell you something. Our industry is cold-blooded. Like, I don't care. Things happen. Our record books don't do anything. Anybody else who thinks this stuff should be changed, if you have a different thought. Baseball is the type of sport, if you have a different thought than certain people, you're an idiot. Now, we've been dealing with that for a long time. But Aaron Judge going for number 62 in the Bronx. You got Sandy Alcantara going up against the Brewers as his historic season for where we are in starting pitching continues. He's taking on the Brewers. How about the Rays? The Rays can clinch their fourth consecutive playoff berth with a win or an Orioles loss. But just like Philly, Philly got a win today. We'll get into Philly too. As I've been talking about these teams that are collapsing down the stretch, Philly they were up. It was late in the game. Next thing you know, here come those Nats. The Nats are like that cockroach right now. They're loving playing spoiler. And they end up surviving and getting the win 5-1. I don't know. I guess the weather's getting really bad. I don't know if we're going to see the second game of the doubleheader. But for the Rays, what a great accomplishment going to the playoffs for the fourth straight year. And the Dodgers win again. They come back and beat the Padres last night. What do they got now? They got the Colorado Rockies. You want to talk about another joke. And the Dodgers, the history that they're making right now, and Eno Sarris will get into it. This is just not, hey, we got some good scouting. This is just not, we're looking at a scenario. They've spent a lot of money. The Los Angeles Dodgers have become the model of how you run a major league franchise. They're the type of franchise that other sports are going to be kind of like the Golden State Warriors right now. You're going to be looking how they operate, how they do their business, because a lot is being based on, wait for it, science. A lot of what think of the Dodgers as NASA, okay? And you got this rocket. We want to send a rocket to space. So what we're going to do is we're going to go hire some really smart people, and we're going to allow you to only work on certain parts of the rocket. Now, we all have one goal, is to get the rocket to space. But you're going to work on the thrusters. You're going to work on the computers. You're going to you get what I'm saying. They don't allow everybody to work on everything because they want to protect their intellectual property. So there's only a few people that get to know everything the Dodgers are doing, while they got a bunch of smart people working on the process. And is it working? My God, is it working? They're destroying people. We're now talking about they got 107 wins. Now we're talking about 110 wins. What if they win out? I mean, they got the Rockies. I don't even know who they're finishing with, but smoked the Rockies for 3 days. Now you're over 110. Are we now looking at getting to 114 wins on a season in baseball today? And talk about the last team to do something like this. We got to go back to the Seattle Mariners in 2001. By the way, if you want to feel old, last time the Seattle Mariners were in the postseason, if you were born in early 2001, you could now come here and legally order a drink at the Athletic Club in Oakland. That's how long ago it was that the Mariners were in the postseason. The babies that were born during that time, are now 21 years old. It was the year I got married. It's a long, long time ago. something that we're going to be dealing with tonight. And that's what's fun, hopefully for the Athletics. If you're looking at something, I mean, you're playing for yourself, you're playing for your stats, you're playing for a potential job, get all that. Why not play spoiler? Because the magic number right now is 1 for the Mariners. Now, all they have to do is win. So the Mariners can clinch a postseason spot for the first time since 2001 with a victory, obviously, or a loss by the Orioles. So if the Orioles could step up and win in New York, and the A's could step up and win in Seattle, maybe, just maybe, they're not popping champagne in Seattle. Maybe, just maybe, that doesn't happen. Play spoiler. Have fun with that. Deny kind of your rival, right? They're in the division. Deny them that opportunity on your watch. I got to be honest with you as a bet man. I think there's no chance in 3 days that's not going to happen. First of all, the Orioles will lose a game in New York. To me right now, the Yankees, you're going to see the Yankees just be like, he tied Maris. Let's just go play now. And they've been playing, by the way, the Yankees have been playing great baseball anyway. I mean, they've been rolling off. The Yankees, just looking at what they have been doing, the Yankees they've won 17-22. But they've dealt so much with this Aaron Judge thing and getting him to 61, tying Maris, tying the American League record. Now they just know, and they've got their last, I think their last 3's in Texas. So you want to talk about no pressure going down to Arlington where they're a dog with fleas. So Judge is going to get 62. And what we have seen, we saw it with Bonds, and you saw it a little bit with McGuire, is once you get past that number, well, actually, we really saw it with McGuire and Sosa. Once you get past the number, because you're like, you get close to that number and you have all the media and you have everybody, and it's just like the pressure, and they're breaking away to the at-bats, and everybody's asking you about that. And then you struggle a little bit, and you don't hit the home runs, and they ask you more and more and more. Well, finally you get to it, and you tie it. And it's like, I've climbed the mountain. And then now everything's kind of gold. Because you can't really say Bonds, because Bonds didn't get to McGuire till the very end. And then on that Friday night against the Dodgers, hit 71-72, took Saturday off and hit 73 on that Sunday. But now that I think about it, McGuire, once McGuire passed 61, the weight was off, and now it's like, I just got to beat Sosa, and he got all the way to 70. So I'm expecting the Yankees to cruise here in these next few games, and I expect, 4 or 5 home runs, something like that from Aaron Judge. Not that the pressure's off and he could just go up there, clear mind, and just hack away. The amount of home runs, by the way, is pretty interesting when we start thinking about where we are in baseball and home runs. And this really ties in, for me, to the Oakland Athletics. Because we're going to talk to Mark Kotsay about Connor Capel. We're going to talk to Mark Kotsay about Jordan Diaz. And then once we get done at the end of the year, I'm going to want to talk to Kotsay again. Obviously, we'll do a year-end show, Mark Kotsay show, and a year-end with our guy, David Force, the general manager, and say, what's the game plan for the offseason? What do you want? Because you've been built on home runs. That's how the A's, that's been the game plan, right? Hit home runs. You hit home runs, you're going to have an opportunity. Well, the A's aren't hitting home runs. That's just a reality. That's not who we are. Now, the thing for me is, what's the new game plan going to be if you're not going to hit home runs? And, oh, by the way, home runs aren't happening anyway. You start to look at the home run totals for this year. The New York Yankees, just to give you an example, the New York Yankees lead baseball in home runs with 243. They've got a guy who's hit 61 home runs, and they only have 243. And you say, what? What do you mean only 243? That seems like a lot. Folks, let me tell you something. I talked about this last night, and I want to talk about it again today. Just 3 years ago, 2019, balls juiced, no humidors. Balls flying out like a bouncy ball. Remember those bouncy balls we throw around and they bounce everywhere when you're a kid? That's exactly what baseball was in 2019. The Minnesota Twins, the Bomba Squad. I remember Commander Cody was so enthralled, right? These kids who want to tell me how big strikeouts and home runs are. We've basically had our equipment that we use in baseball manipulated so much that it's skewed records. Skewed it. The Minnesota Twins in 2019 hit 307. The New York Yankees that year hit 306. Ray, do you hear what I'm saying?
I do.
307 and 306 home runs just 3 years ago. The New York Yankees have a guy right now that has 61. But we've put balls in the humidors, and we've made sure that we're playing with a regular ball, not a bouncy ball. And the leader right now is just 243. They have a guy who's hit 61 home runs, and yet as a team, they've only hit 243.
That's a little fishy.
3 years ago, they hit 306. That's a lot more. And they didn't have a guy hit 61 and didn't even sniff 61.
True.
So I look at the A's. Let's look at the A's, how the ball club's been built. In 2018, your Oakland Athletics were third in baseball. We hit the third most home runs in baseball in 2018 with 227. Think about that. Then in 2019, we're playing with the Super Bowl. By the way, the A's up the ante, finished fifth in baseball with 257. So in 2018, 2019, the A's were a top 5 team in home runs hit. And David Force said on this show, ball goes far, team goes far. That was the strategy. Get on base, hit home runs. Walk, get on base. As Brad Pitt asked in Moneyball, do you care how you get on base? No, you don't. All right, well, that strategy worked. But that strategy now is dead because the A's don't hit home runs. Let me see where we are. The A's are now tied for 26 with 131. So we're hitting well over 100 less home runs. And you got to figure out another strategy. I mean, how are we going to compete? How are we going to score? And that's something we'll talk to Mark Kotsay about because you may have some of the answers on the team right now. Guys that make contact, guys that can hit, guys that are not all or nothing players. And when I look at Connor Capel, really early, small sample sizes, people like to say, but you can look at Capel, you can look at Jordan Diaz. Are these the type of players? I mean, do we have to make just a dramatic shift as an organization? Once again, you'd like to follow the Dodgers because the Dodgers have all these scientists working for them now. They've got all these angles they're working on and your bat path and the ball path and all these kind of things that I don't really even know about. I know it's working. There's no question about that. It definitely works. So, you know, where this game is going and how you're going to compete, is it more like the Cleveland Indians? How have the Cleveland Indians won this year? And by the way, the Cleveland Guardians, the Guardians are cruising right now. They're hot in September. They're one of the teams that's not falling flat on their face trying to get across the line and get into the playoffs. They're steamrolling into the playoffs. What do? They pitch, they play defense, they make a lot of contact. They hit some home runs, but they make a lot of contact. Where are they in home runs? Oh, by the way, they're 29th in home runs. This is going to be a fascinating postseason. I cannot wait. All these people built on home runs and power and how they're going to do. I mean, what if Cleveland makes a little run? And they're not about power at all. They're 29th in home runs. I mean, they've got some guys that can hit bombs. They got Jose Ramirez. But the A's have hit more home runs than the Cleveland Indians. What does that tell you? By the way, you want to get Amelia and you want to get Jess rolling here? Yeah, you look at some of the big boys. Obviously, you got the Yankees with the most home runs. Braves are up there. Astros are up there. Dodgers are up there. Phillies are up there. I mean, Phillies are up there, and they're just collapsing as we speak. Cardinals are up there. But to watch down the stretch and then to watch in the postseason, what if Cleveland goes on a run? Takes down these teams that have all these home runs. I cannot wait. I have not looked at the scoreboard. Jessica Kleinschmidt is supposed to be following this for us. Let me look at my phone here and get an update on the score, as this is also huge for me. As much as everybody likes to tell me that Jacob deGrom is the best pitcher in baseball, all the time they've saved deGrom and worried about deGrom, no, they haven't teed off yet. What time is their game? It's 4:20. They haven't started playing yet. I wonder if they're having some rain issues. Oh, they're about to get going. But to me, this is a huge – they're setting up deGrom. They're setting him up. They're setting him up for today. They're setting him up for the last game of the season. They're hoping that's not going to matter if you're a Mets fan. Then they're setting him up for game one. So all this time, they protected him and saved him. We're going to see his last few starts. He has not pitched well, especially as you saw against the Athletics. Well, you guys got to actually come into the picture for them to see you. Oh, Amelia Schimmel, by the way, she needs. Does anybody have any pom-poms, or do we have confetti to come down that she's here?
I didn't need any big fanfare.
She's
I
here.
just didn't want to cramp your
She
style
needs
in
the
the
big
shot.
fanfare.
Yes, she's the voice of the Coliseum. She's a big deal.
I would like 6 cats to precede me, just kind of like, mush dog style.
Do you need the rose petals to be thrown out in front of you? The queen is here.
Absolutely not.
Jessica Kleinschmidt, who you see on this show all the time. How are you?
What a follow-up of an intro. The queen's here, and then so is Jess.
Oh,
You're going to hear Jessica later anyway on Total
we're
Access.
both
It doesn't matter
court
anyway.
jesters, honestly.
Like, seriously,
The queen thing
the
doesn't
amount of, we won't call it ego, we'll call it divaness in your guys' apartment must be out of control.
Not really.
We're both very low maintenance,
Yeah.
We're both like baseball women. We just kind of, go with the flow. I like to think.
It's just you put the bravado on once you enter the Coliseum.
Sure. Yeah.
You,
It's loud. I will tell you that.
You-
Our house is loud.
So you guys leave the bravado at home. You leave it at the Coliseum when you go home, is what you're saying.
Sometimes
I don't
it depends
know.
on the game. If it's a long day, like we're still pretty loud. We're just
Yeah.
more laid back about it.
How much fun have you guys had with the segment?
Oh,
It's been fun.
so much fun.
Yeah.
Especially after a win. But yeah, it's a lot of fun either way, Win
Yeah.
or lose, we booze kind of thing.
Yeah, so post-game stuff's better when you win, huh?
You don't say, huh?
Really? I didn't
You
know
don't
that.
say. No, it's a good time. I mean, we kind of talk about all things baseball, not baseball, what happened to us that
Yeah.
day, behind the scenes.
And people are really eating up the behind the scenes stuff. So I've been really enjoying that.
Yeah. We get to interact directly with people too. So we'll see them at the Coliseum and we'll talk to them about the show. And then we'll talk about, our interactions later on the show, if we saw them at the treehouse or just around the Coliseum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it goes to show that the average person doesn't want to hear the chalk baseball stuff.
Yeah.
Like after the game, they don't care what they like. And we've had a bazillion consultants tell us this over the year. They like the people.
Yeah.
They tune in because they like you as much as they like baseball and they want to hear about another loss. They actually like you guys. They're turning in to hear what you guys have to say about the game. And then you throw in your live stuff and it's a win-win. It's been a huge hit.
Well, you think about, we don't need to beat into the ground the team lost, for instance. So
No.
it's kind of like we know what happened, we know what didn't happen, we know what the team needed to work on, what they need to work on, and we kind of get to slide in there and say, but there was some cool stuff that happened leading into the game, or during the game this happened, and despite the loss, there's some cool stuff to take away just from the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah. And Jess has been doing this for a long time. This is kind of the first foray into podcast world and radio world for me. So it's a lot of fun. Yeah.
But what people don't know about you is they now know you. I mean, you were behind the scenes when you came to work for the Athletics.
Yeah.
Now you're front and center being the voice of the Coliseum. But what people don't know is your extensive background at Major League Baseball and the MLB Network as super producer extraordinaire.
Thanks.
Trust me, it was 2019, hard to believe, right? 2019, we're at the winter meetings in San Diego. And
That's right.
she's like the biggest star of the former MLB Network employees. Everybody loves her. So a lot of people don't know your baseball background.
Well, I won't say I was the biggest star of the MLB Network employees, but thank you. I've been working in baseball and hockey my entire life. I graduated school, went straight to MLB Productions, MLB Network, produced behind the scenes for close to a decade there on the East Coast, and was just surrounded in baseball. And I wouldn't have it any other way. It was incredible. You get to do breakdowns with, Pedro Martinez, Harold Reynolds. It's like constantly pinching myself, like, wow, do I get to do this? And I said to myself at one point, like, if I can just do this for the rest of my life, I'll be happy. And then it got better getting the A's job as the executive producer, and even better getting the PA job. So I'm still like constantly, wow, how did I get this lucky that I get to work in my favorite sport for my favorite team?
One of the greatest lines that I've stolen from you is a guy that I grew up a huge fan of, Al Leiter. And Al Leiter just sometimes people just don't know how to end their sentence or their thought. And it's like, dude, just stop. And you would tell him,
land the plane, Al. Land the plane. His
favorite.
questions were longer than most players' answers. He would ask like 4-minute questions. Vasgersian and I would be there just growing gray hairs and like, land the plane, Al.
Land the plane.
But he's wonderful. He's a really, really nice person. And of course, like he had a lot of fun with it. But like sometimes there were 7 questions in one and you never really knew. Like he would finish his question, the player would just stare at him blankly. Like, what just happened?
Well, and we're always, and Jessica, we're always in a time crunch, right?
Right.
We know that our interviews have to be 3 minutes, 6 minutes. And you're sitting there going, will you please just wrap up?
It's a fun challenge too. You know me, I can't stop talking. So when Townie does this thing, that's you telling me to land the plane.
That is true, but
Yeah.
to your defense, though, you don't have a timer in front of you, so you don't know.
Correct.
You're kind of flying blind. You need an air traffic controller.
Yes. Yeah. No, I think that's what's cool is being able to cut it off at a certain amount of time too. I like that challenge, and as opposed to just running on and continuing either way.
And this has been a big year for you. I mean, you told me one of 4 women to do play-by-play in the minor leagues.
In AAA, yeah.
Yeah, this has been big.
Yeah, and it was kind of cool to kind of go out of my comfort zone. I've always been really interested in content and stuff like that, but I know broadcast could always use something extra and a different view, and I feel the one thing that the A's broadcast has been lacking is somebody that's right there with them constantly 24/7, that's in the clubhouses and in the dugouts and talking to them. And I was excited to kind of pick their brains and figure them out, because at the end of the day, we know what the win-loss record is, and what it doesn't necessarily reflect is the players as individuals and what they're working on specifically and all the opportunities they're giving. And I've been lucky enough to know what a lot of the fans are interested in, what they're not interested in, who to highlight, what not to highlight, and all of that kind of stuff, and just work on being patient with my own broadcasts and everything like that. It's been really, really cool.
She'll get back and talk about, hey, I just noticed this whole pitch clock phenomenon in the minor leagues and how everybody loves it.
Yeah.
And I was shocked.
She was also very anti. She's like, no, I want as much baseball as possible.
Oh, she's like an old man.
But you know
by
what?
the
I
way.
am. You're the one
But
who's
that's
hawking
what's
pitching
cool.
wins. Like it's,
But
going
that's
out of
what's
business.
cool.
By the way, all the people on the field say the same thing I do.
Yeah.
About pitchers wins or about the pitch clock?
No, pitchers wins, but the pitch clock, the whole, like, even David Force, our general manager on the David Force show,
He
came
loved
back
it.
and said, I was in Lansing, I was in Midland, and when he came back, he said, it's hard to watch us after watching that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You were
Yeah.
against that?
I wasn't against it. I like more baseball is better, but the way you explain it, Jess, is great. It's the same amount of baseball. It's just condensed for pace of play.
Yeah, we haven't taken outs away.
Right.
For
It's
sure.
not. Yeah. I mean,
And I'm glad you went into it, because I went the same way when I first watched my first AAA game. Mind you, I watched the pitching clock and then I had to commentate on it, and so they liked my reaction of it.
Yeah.
And I thought it was cool because I was same thing. I'm like, no, this is so anti-traditionalist and everything like that. And then as time went on, the game was still the same, and you kind of opened your eyes a little bit more. But I was the same way too, and I think everybody's gonna go through that. And we've talked about that before. It's going to be interesting at first, but even pitchers, especially in the A's organization, are the perfect guys to talk to, because we're constantly, moving them up, moving them down. So we had like Jared Koenig, who's constantly seeing it. Talked to Lance Lynn about it, who watched it. So you have the perfect guys who can be honest with how they feel about it. And so far, it's been really good.
and we have all of that to look forward to next year. I'm really excited just from a rule book standpoint, watching the game and how it changes with the shifts changing, with the pitch clock potentially, with the bases bigger, all that stuff. But I am not old school. I am not. It used to be like when I was producing MLB Now, it was Harold Reynolds versus Brian Kenny, and Brian was all Saber, friend of the show, right?
Have you noticed
But
he started to
I'm
change a
equal
little
parts
bit?
both.
Have you noticed Brian's kind of, because some of his
I
stuff's
don't think
failing.
So, well, I
The
don't know if it's
bullpen-
failing. I
the
think he's
bullpen's
just too
failing.
ahead of his time.
The bullpens.
I think
Bullpens are
everyone's
collapsing.
regressing to the mean, right? Like I'm like a little bit traditionalist in that at first I was like poo-pooing robo umps. And now I'm like, all right, well, I like getting the calls right, And then also, I really like some of the new school stuff, like, on base, OPS, all that stuff instead of pitchers win loss, whatever, and the older stats that don't necessarily tell the whole story. So
I'm a tweener, I think, because I can go either way.
yeah.
Right? There's certain things I like, I don't like certain things, because like I can always go, because right now we're kind of finding some things right now, because really with baseball media, it's interesting because like just think about I went through DeGrom's last Cy Young award, right?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't throw one complete game, only went 8 innings one time.
Mm-hmm.
Only stat that he led in, only one was strikeouts. But we were in a period then when kind of the analytics were bullying everybody. So because you can go to other guys' years that gave you more innings, gave you more starts, gave you more things. But it's like what's interesting is we have very few national people, and most of the people who cover it are all regional. So you follow your teams, but then now you're voting on the MVP and we're asking all these people who really haven't watched Judge or Ohtani all year long to just look at Baseball Reference and make votes.
Right. You can't do that.
And really the only place now that talks baseball is your former employer, MLB Network, because ESPN got rid of Baseball Tonight. So we have very limited national coverage of our sport.
And if you're looking at a Baseball Reference page and you have not watched any A's games, you wouldn't realize just how great Sean Murphy, for example, is. I watch him every day save runs. He's making blocks. He's framing. I mean, framing's probably going to go out at some point.
Yeah, that's bye-bye.
But, he's doing he's like the heart of the team. And you can't see that unless you actually watch a game. You don't need to just, not go to games, look at the Baseball Reference stats, and then just vote based on that. So, I don't know.
Yeah, at this point, you might as well have Twitter followers just vote for MVP and everything else.
I mean, we got really deep into it.
Pretty much are.
I got the thing today, vote for the Roberto Clemente Award. I mean, it's like, it's interesting how,
That's not stats.
Why do I want somebody in St. Louis voting on Judge and Ohtani? You kind of want the people who watch it and see it. It's been a fascinating run because we saw Ohtani again last night. We saw Judge hit 61. I mean, this is going to be, I don't know. A lot of people think, Judge is just going to blow it out. I don't know. I mean, it's going to, don't you guys think it could be real close too.
Yeah.
Fascinating close.
I mean,
I like the way that Aaron Judge approaches his defensive game as well. And I don't think we've seen that much highlighted from Shohei, but at the same time, nobody else is doing what Shohei does. And if that's what they're going to bank it on, then he should win it every single time. But a triple crown, like we see that 1 in a trillion years. I know we see that 1 in a trillion years with the Ohtanis of the world, but I'm very much Aaron Judge at this point.
Ooh.
We were talking about Shohei this morning, by the way.
So we got a Judge.
I am a really big fan of what Judge is doing. I mean, it feels like the Sosa McGuire year. It feels like all eyes are on every at bat, and I love that. And you know what? Walk him if you want to. That's part of the game too. I know everybody's, wants the rubber chickens and all that stuff for walking him, but that's part of the game. That's part of the strategy. So if they do pitch to him, I want it to be a real pitch and him to actually hit a real homer. And that's what he's doing. And it's awesome to watch. But with Shohei, he's kind of a jack of all trades type where it's like, he's not the best hitter. He's not the best pitcher, but he's really, really, really good at both. So he's a great player to have on your team. But I think offensively, you'd choose Mike Trout over him, right?
Well, it's funny. We had the Athletic writer on yesterday from the Angels writer from the Athletic yesterday, and I said, listen, I'm going to poke holes in this Shohei Ohtani thing, and I know I'm going to look like a jackass doing it, right? Because if you say anything against the guy, you look like a jerk.
Awesome.
And he goes, and Eno Sarris and I are going to do it in a little bit. It's like, once again, I like to think out of the box a little bit, and I'm looking at going, okay, here you have this guy that, we know DH only has so much value because you only play so much. If there's hundreds of innings he's not participating in because he's sitting on the bench, chewing sunflower seeds and drink Gatorade. DH is hardly participate. Then as a starting pitcher, I have to have a 6-man rotation. So I've got to have 5 other guys to accommodate him.
Yeah.
And there really is not that many teams where his value would be great. Like, he wouldn't be that valuable on the A's because we don't have 5 other guys. We don't have enough guys to he literally needs to be on a super team to utilize all of his talents because his volume is
and
lacking.
yet he's on the Angels.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing about because a lot of people would say, well, he can't be on a small market team that doesn't spend money. They're not small market and they spend a lot of money. So to have him in the right situation, and my whole thing too is remember on Christmas morning you got that gift and it was the greatest gift you ever had.
Hanukkah, but yeah.
Still
Hanukkah.
waiting. Still waiting. But yes.
Okay, so the very next year you still love that gift, right?
Yeah.
But now you got a new one for Hanukkah. So my thing is, Otani, I've seen it already. Stop telling me I've never seen it before. I've seen it.
Yeah.
It's great, but I've seen it. We're going to see it for years. So I don't have a vote. I probably would go Judge. I think what Judge is doing, the pressure, as you know, in New York, being around that is immense.
I would go Judge too, but it's like they're both doing great things for the game.
I remember just when I was little watching Barry Bonds, I would literally stop what I was doing knowing he was about to go up to the plate. Shohei doesn't do that for me. Aaron Judge does.
Great points. Great points.
Sports Center will go into it. It's just something that is big for the game.
And last thing, I checked, we're in the entertainment business, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that what we're supposed to be doing? Promoting the game, selling tickets. Like we're supposed to promote. It's supposed to be entertaining.
Yeah.
All right. For you, so last one each.
Okay.
For you, it's now been a couple of years. What's the main thing you've learned and grown with being the public address announcer?
It's interesting. Having worked in sports before becoming the PA announcer, there was a time when I didn't go straight from being an A's fan just to going to be a PA announcer. It was a long, gradual process of my career in baseball, and I had to put aside the fandom a little bit at MLB Network. But now I can bring it back as a PA announcer because I am actually feeling like the energy of the crowd and getting to announce in the really, really big moments, like bases loaded, a guy's coming to the plate, he's going to get a bigger intro. So I've learned that I can kind of save up for those moments. Don't go like 100 miles per hour in a 60 zone earlier in the game, like in the third inning when the situation is different, and just kind of pace yourself. Don't blow out your voice at the beginning of a 10-game homestand. Don't call bingo too loudly, which is what we're about to do. Like
gotta
stuff
cut down on the alcohol because it's not good for your voice.
Let's not push it.
It's pace yourself. It's you don't get to retract anything. So you have to wait until the exact right opportunity to say something. And so when you're saying it on radio, you can correct yourself pretty quickly. But when you're announcing it to a stadium, you have to just compose yourself and then, let it go. And I've gotten a lot more comfortable, and it's just fantastic that the fans have given so much support because that helps me too.
If you have a long week in Vegas, I have some remedies for you that will help you for your voice.
We'll talk about that after.
And for you, it's been a big year for you from a standpoint, women in baseball, highlighting not only yourself, but other women in baseball. Just talk about what that's meant to you in your career.
I feel like I'm at the point where I'm not being told I'm good for a girl, which is really nice. You can just be good. And I feel like any woman listening here hates that, to hear that. And kind of mirroring what she said, I think it's a lot about just like slowing yourself down and reminding that we're supposed to be here and all of that. And I really just trying to fine tune my craft and then add to that craft. Not too long ago, I was just a blogger for a various amount of sites and then went to NBC. And then now I'm one of the only women to cover on a broadcast in AAA. It's like a dream of mine. So I think for me, it's about fine tuning all of those things, adding to supposed to be here. It's all okay. And it's a different type of respect for the game as well. I feel like I'm kind of past the honeymoon stage, but we love each other. We're in this for the long haul, and it's just like a different love for and appreciation for the game and the people involved in it.
Bingo starts we're here at the Athletic Club in Oakland. Bingo starts
pretty soon. I don't know what time it is right now, but I think we're going to get started right after this interview.
4:38 right now. So if you're watching, come
next
down.
15-20 minutes.
Prizes, drink specials. We have it all. You guys were fabulous. Thank you so much. Coming up next, it's the Eno Sarris Show right here on A's Cast Live.
The Coliseum has gone by many names, but none better than the Last Dive Bar. Hi, everyone. Ken Korak here, and my friends at Last Dive Bar are helping us celebrate our longtime home. Last Dive Bar has the most unique merchandise for all Oakland baseball fans. T-shirts, sweatshirts, the Ray Fosse line, and my personal favorite, the lights have taken full effect. Visit their website at lastdivebar.com or follow them on social media at Last Dive Bar. All proceeds are invested back into the A's Community Fund and their affiliated charities. Go to lastdivebar.com. That's lastdivebar.com.
The Eno Sarris Show is sponsored by Fieldwork Brewing Company. With 8 taproom locations in Northern California, Fieldwork brings you fresh craft beer direct from the source. Fieldwork will also ship beer direct to your door if you live in California. Visit fieldworkbrewing.com.
Hey A's fans, check out Longport Fish Company, an exciting new chef-driven seafood restaurant located in the Veranda Shopping Center in Concord. Longport features the highest quality lobsters, oysters, king salmon, flavorful cioppino, and much, much more. It features a full bar of craft cocktails, local brews, and a curated wine list. Longport Fish Company is for all occasions too. Date night, business meetings, catching an A's game at the bar, or bringing the whole family. Check us out at longportfc.com, on Yelp, and on all social media.
Humanity has accomplished a whole lot so far. We created penicillin, the automobile, and the internet, not to mention drones, duct tape, and the hot dog. It's all thanks to the power of human connections. And Ring Central's here to make that even easier, more seamlessly and securely, on a platform built to grow your business. Say hello to a whole new way to say hello. Visit ringcentral.com and say hello to possibilities. Ring Central. Message, video, phone, together.
Some things just go together. Peanut butter and jelly, cookies and milk, Oakland and Kaiser Permanente. If that last one caught you off guard, it shouldn't, because Kaiser Permanente has been helping keep Oakland healthy since our very beginning. And as the official healthcare partner of the Oakland A's, that won't be changing anytime soon. Whatever you may need, you can trust Kaiser Permanente to help keep you feeling your best. Kaiser Permanente. Thrive. Visit kp.org today.
Coming in at 5'3", it's number one mom. She switched to Xfinity and got the all-new 3-for-1 bundle. Unlimited internet, streaming, and Xfinity Mobile. All for what you could pay wireless companies for just one 5G unlimited line. Boom shakalaka. Go to Xfinity.com/3-for-1, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit an Xfinity store today. Limited time offer, restrictions apply. Xfinity Mobile requires post-pay Xfinity internet. After 24 months, regular rates apply to all services and devices.
This is Chris Townsend for the Chicken Pie Shop of Walnut Creek. Great news! Our indoor dining is back, along with our beautiful patio dining. Come taste our world-famous chicken pie that has been served in Southern California for 83 years. The Chicken Pie Shop of Walnut Creek has one of the most dynamic menus, plus a full bar. Pot pies, gourmet burgers, sandwiches, salads, flatbreads, and more. Don't forget, we still do takeout and delivery. For all the information, go to chickenpieshopwc.com. That's chickenpieshopwc.com.
Unlock offers and receive exclusive in-game features by downloading the MLB Ballpark app for iPhone and Android today. Plus, get the latest information on game times, schedules, and more.
A's Cast Live continues from the town. Here's Chris Townsend.
You know what we forgot to do? We forgot to get into Carlos Correa with Jessica Kleinschmidt. We'll have to do that coming up here in A's Total Access. As that, we're getting an echo. See, watch this. I'm not talking, but it's still playing here.
Because we have it on the speakers. Yeah.
It's a little radio trick. So we're being delayed. All right, earlier today, we were able to catch up with our buddy Eno Sarris. Do we have the sponsor?
We sure do.
The Eno Sarris Show is sponsored by Fieldwork Brewing Company. With 8 taproom locations in Northern California, Fieldwork brings you fresh craft beer direct from the source. Fieldwork will also ship beer direct to your door if you live in California. Visit fieldworkbrewing.com.
Eno Sarris is our national baseball columnist from The Athletic. He joins us every single week here on A's Cast Live. We hope you enjoy. Eno, it's great to see you. Too bad you couldn't join us at the Athletic Club today. Hope all is well. What is shaking, my friend?
It's good. It's, we're getting down to the last weekend. Unfortunately, it doesn't mean a lot for the A's, but the Mets and Braves are going to have a pretty crazy weekend series that, there's a lot on the line for a team that the difference between the wild card and sitting on your butt for 3 days while the other teams duke it out is a big deal. So the Mets really want to take at least 1 or 2 of these games because there's not going to be a game 163 this year. So they have the tiebreaker. So if they come out of it tied, they should feel all right.
Do we know weather-wise how they're going to be for that series?
There's some thought that it won't be as bad in Atlanta as it is. I mean, if you're seeing the videos from Florida, it looks pretty bad down there. But they thought maybe Atlanta would be spared.
So last night, I was just going through the post-game show, and I was looking at home runs because we were talking about, how are the A's going to turn this thing around? That's what we're going to be looking at. And, the last few years, they've been built on the home run. They've been if you look at 2018, 2019, both playoff years, they were top 5 team in home runs. And then I started looking at going, oh my God, if you look at 2019, where we had the record for most home runs hit for a team with the Twins at 307, and then you had the Yankees right behind them at 306. This year, you have the Yankees that has a player that has 61. He's got 61. The Yankees are just at 243. My God, this humidor thing, maybe making the balls different, not as juiced, and this humidor thing, you want to talk about working. Man, what a dramatic difference from 2019 to where we are today.
Yeah, it's not the same for every homer. So pulled homers are down about 15%. Pulled fly ball homers. Opposite field home runs are down 30%. So, if you take just a little bit away from an opposite field home run, it goes away. It's not even a homer. If a lot of those pulled home runs are just moonshots, and they'll still be homers if you take some feet away from them. So that's been part of it. And Judge has made some adjustments to have a little bit more pull fly balls than oppo fly balls like he's had in the past. And that's part of why he's had such a great season. But yeah, they lead the league again. They hit the most homers all the time. But this year it's 243 versus 307. That's a big difference. But Oakland has they were 6th in the league in 2019, and they had 257 homers that year. This year they have 131, and it's not just the ball or humidor or anything because obviously this isn't the same team as they had back then. But it does raise the question if, for example, the pull fly ball and the opposite field fly ball got affected differently by this situation, different parks might be being affected differently, and it really does feel like the ball is more dead in Oakland than almost anywhere. And I don't know if it's been unseasonably cold or this isn't, a thorough analysis where you'd have to account for, wind and temperature and everything, but it does seem deader than usual. And it's hard to sort of separate that from who's on the team this year, but it does make you wonder, what had happened over, Moneyball was about OBP, right? And OBP had been maybe undervalued. People had been thinking about slugging and batting average. So they found a little, time when OBP was undervalued. What you've actually found since then is that slugging percentage has become a little bit more valuable than on-base percentage. And I think Oakland kind of readjusted to that. And they weren't actually the best teams in OBP over the last few years. But they have become really good slugging teams. What's their next adjustment, right? There has to be a next adjustment. And if you look at the types of players they're picking up this year, I'm worried that they're not making that same adjustment because you've got, they've got Dermis Garcia, even like Christian Betancourt when he was on the team earlier. You're talking about like guys they've been picking up, guys have been trying Sky Bolt, Cody Thomas. A lot of these guys strike out a lot, I think that works if you hit the ball hard. But what if hitting the ball hard is not being rewarded as much? So, I'm a little bit more excited about, two guys named Connor Capel and Jordan Diaz in a way, because those guys make contact and maybe could be spray hitters. They might hit 15 to 20 homers, but we have to remember now 15 to 20 homers isn't what Freddie Galvis hits. 15 to 20 homers. Nick Allen in 2019 might have hit 15 to 20 homers. So now you have to recalibrate, and 15 to 20 homers is the new okay, right? So if Capel and Diaz do hit and are good players for them, which I see enough there, and even in the short samples that I think they could be, then it'll be a new kind of team that maybe strikes out less, sprays the ball, and is a little bit different of a team than they've had in the past.
Can you imagine Nick Allen with his 22nd home run of the year? No, the ball's not juice. No way. But
I mean, my big one was Freddie Galvis. I always go back to Freddie Galvis. I'm like, what is Freddie Galvis doing? He had like 25 homers that year. I'm like, what is going on?
I'm so glad you brought up Connor Capel, because obviously Jordan Diaz is a guy who's mashed from AA, AAA, and he's now hitting at the big league level. And Connor Capel, as we love to say, a small sample size, but just kind of looking at him, he's built for me kind of like the comp that I had was Brian Giles. Kind of the way he's built, and he's stocky. Bat is a more level through the zone a lot longer. We've seen him flip the ball to left field along with pull it and hit it out of the ballpark. There's just
Good athlete, like runs well.
Yeah, I don't know what the actual game plan is for David Force in the offseason. We're going to ask that in our last show of the year, but I'm trying to figure out the way that the A's did it in 18 and 19. David had a saying, ball goes far, team goes far. I don't see that, the next couple of years. We just don't have those players. So what will be the game plan? How do you generate offense when you're last in batting average, you're second to last in runs scored? You got to score runs. What's the game plan? What do you think is the best way for them to go about it in the short term to be competitive?
There was this revolution in analytics where they said, oh my God, pitchers can't control the line drive, and hitters' line drive rates aren't sticky year to year. So we've been chasing line drives all this time, and they're actually kind of amorphous and hard to do anything about, right? Well, if you look at the Dodgers, they are suppressing line drives at a rate we've never seen before in all of baseball. They're, in this parlance of stats, they're three standard deviations out. Like that's when you're like, whoa, that's like the dot that's way out there, and they're probably doing it with a combination of really good game planning in terms of, they're doing things where they're modeling the shape of the swing of the hitter and the shape of the pitch coming in from their pitchers, and then modeling where those balls spray, and having like excellent defensive positioning based on the physics of the interaction of the pitch. Not just, this guy against right-handers, he puts the ball here, like his shape of bat versus this shape of pitch creates this kind of a spray chart. Let's put our guys there. So that's part of it. They also, the suppressing line drives has to be a combination of how they, coach their stuff up, that sort of deal. I would suggest that if you want to be out in front right now, you embrace line drives. You embrace line drives on the hitting side, and you research the best ways, to find Connor Capels, to find guys that hit line drives and make contact. So, you get those level swings rather than those uppercut swings, so you find you research the physics of creating line drives, and you research the physics of suppressing line drives. And you join. I mean, you might be a couple years after the Dodgers, but that's okay. Those guys have tons of PhDs and tons of money in this. They have a $300 million payroll. You're not in the same division, so thank God. But on the same level, like that's what the Astros are doing. So I would say, if I was David Force, I would think about the line drive, and I would also think about what I can do to improve our player development systems to sort of have this always on faucet of young players. It seems like the Astros just always have a new young pitcher, that's great, that they didn't have to trade for. They found the guy. So those are the two things I would do if I were the A's.
Now, I don't know why you're bringing up the Dodgers. It's kind of a mystery to me, because clearly what they're doing is not working.
Yeah, it's just leading the league in wins over the last 5, 10, 15 years. Yeah.
Isn't it kind of crazy? Like yesterday, I did my third inning hit with Vince and Ken on the on A's Cast and the A's Radio Network that I do every day during the game. And I'm like, okay, these guys literally are just squashing their competition. Like, you had the Giants last year win 107, and they were talking a big game in the offseason. Padres get Bob Melvin. They were talking a big game. And they've literally just, excuse my language, kicked everybody's ass in their division. They've made them all look so small. I mean, I have the notes. They literally have outscored the Padres like 109 to like 49. I mean, it's like they've demolished them. And to think, when you start talking to win over 110 games, that means not only are you beating the bottom feeders, you're beating the over 500 teams too.
Oh yeah, I mean, they put another way, they have a run differential of 325, so they've outscored their opponents by 325 wins, 325 runs. So guess what? The second place team has done. The second best team in that, it's the Yankees. They've outscored their opponents by 235 runs. So the Dodgers are almost 100 runs better than the Yankees, and that's
what was the final in that game last night? Was it 5-2?
It was 5-2, and
okay, here it is. I got for you. So here you
most
go.
Updated.
Yeah, I got you the update. Let me get you the updated stats here. The Dodgers whooping the Padres' ass. They get Bob Melvin, right? You got Fernando Tatis Jr., which you thought at the beginning of the year he was going to play, right?
Big trade for Soto.
Yeah, you had unit trade. They have outscored the Padres. It's 105 to 47.
And this last week, it's been a moral victory to play them tight. I mean, that's how hard it is to be in the division with the Dodgers. And they, I think there's very little you can do sometimes when you run up against a team that plays smart and also spends a lot of money, and seems to do everything right. The one thing that the Dodgers do that maybe makes them gettable in some certain senses is this: they silo their guys. We talked about this a little bit. They have guys who are just working on one thing, and they're not allowed to see the rest, because they might go work for the Yankees next year, and they don't want them, taking Dodgers secrets away. So, that's a way to work. If you have lots of dollars out there and you're spending it on 8 PhDs, you have 8 PhDs in 8 different rooms working on 8 different things, right? But if you're the A's, I think what you need to do is foster a sense of, hey, we're all in this together. There is no siloing. Everybody sees everything, and we communicate well, and we're all we're pulling on the same rope. And that's the only chance I think that that smaller market teams have is to communicate really well and be all on the same page.
Yesterday I was talking to the Athletic writer, of course, Eno Sarris with the Athletic. Everybody should subscribe. It's wonderful journalism. We were talking about Shohei Ohtani. I said, hey, listen, anytime you say anything bad about Shohei Ohtani, you look like an absolute jerk. I get it. But, just kind of looking at it, like there is this greatness that we have never seen, and it's unbelievable. But I'm wondering, does it come at a price? Because I'm trying to figure out, when you say Shohei Ohtani and like he's in a bad situation in Anaheim, because normally we look at players and they say, well, they need to be in a bigger market with a team that spends money. Well, he is in a big market and they spend money. Trout, these guys are supposed to be the guys that help lead you to victory. But I think what we don't look at, tell me if I'm wrong, and if I'm just, as they used to say, picking boogers here, I'm looking at Shohei and I go, he as an individual player is great. But people looking at it from a standpoint saying, hey, he's one guy doing 2 different positions. And I go, well, I don't know. If you got to have a 6-man rotation to make it work for his skills, I've got to have 5 other starting pitchers. I can't even find 2 or 3. And now with him, I've got to have 6. We are now using the DH as a position where we just don't want that old guy who hits home runs. We want flexibility with the DH. With him, I don't have that flexibility. I love him offensively, but I've got to always have him at DH. He does nothing for me defensively. That's really hundreds of innings where he just doesn't play. So I'm trying to think the model of, yes, his individual is like he'd work perfectly on the Dodgers. Okay. Dodgers, Yankees. There's not many teams
they
like
got
that.
They have extra pitchers. They have extra players.
There you go. There's got to be a lot of greatness around him. So I'm not trying to poke at him saying he's not great. I'm just wondering, as an individual, he's great. But if I got to win 162 games and he's my main piece, you start to look at the game plan there and go, I'm not so sure. Am I completely wrong, or do you see what I'm getting at?
No, totally. I mean, the thing that happens, you have this WAR construct, wins above replacement. And usually it does, what you're trying to do is take it away from who specifically replaces the player, right? It's a construct, it's a model, right? So, Matt Olson has this, wins above replacement. We're not talking about what happens when he sits down and, who else is actually playing behind him. We're only just talking about this value in this system. However, with Shohei, you actually have to talk about who's actually replacing him because he himself creates the need for replacements. So he doesn't even DH every day of the week. He has to take a day off because the day after he pitches, he needs to rest. So you're creating this situation where he gives you no defensive value. You need to have someone who can step into DH when he's not there. And then you also need to have an extra starting pitcher. So it is actually, people always say, oh, there's got to be some value to having that extra roster spot. He's 2 players in 1 roster spot.
Yeah,
that's true. I can't say that's not true, but he also breaks WAR in that you can't just be like, oh, you could do anything out of the roster spot. No, you know what you need to do with that extra roster spot? Put another starting pitcher in it. That's what you got to do. So he puts constraints on what happens, on the roster around him. So just saying like add WAR and then add some extra value for that extra roster spot, then you have to subtract some sort of value of what's it called? Like just a flexibility. Like your roster is less flexible with him on it. It's not the same as Chris Taylor. There was some research saying Chris Taylor is really valuable for his team because he can play everywhere. He's a batter who can play lots of different positions. He doesn't create any problems. He doesn't, because you have Chris Taylor doesn't mean you have to have extra other players. You know what I mean? Like, because you have Chris Taylor doesn't mean you have to have another batter. It's just great to have Chris Taylor. He can play center. He can play short. He can play second. He is a one-man show. It's a little bit different with Shohei Ohtani, even though he is a one-man show, and we don't need to take anything away from him. I mean, I for those who think that he is the MVP, I totally get it. He does 2 things remarkably well. He's probably a top 10 pitcher and like a top 20, top 30 hitter. That's amazing to be both of those things.
Yeah, so that's why we kind of look like jerks if we're bringing up that. But it's like, we are about winning and we are about roster building. I want to.
You'd be terrible on the A's. It would be a bad deal on the A's.
Interesting. Yeah, that's interesting.
Where he's better? He's better, like you said, on the Yankees and the Dodgers because they do have the extra pitchers, and they do have the extra fielders. If the A's were like they want to play him every day, I think it would be like, okay, I think the A's would have to play him every day.
My last year playing at San Jose State was 1995. I think I'd be better on the Dodgers. Just saying, they need some help. I noticed in my notes yesterday something, and I want to ask you as we get out of here. I noticed there's so many teams that are like literally dying. They're falling flat on their face. You can just go through it. This team's lost, 12 out of 15. I mean, it's down the line. Where do you want to go? You want to go Mariners, Orioles, Phillies.
Phillies are falling on their face.
We just saw it now that the Twins and the White Sox has just lost 8 in a row. Padres. I mean, forget about the bad teams. We're talking about teams in contention that are just literally their bullpens are a dumpster fire. Their players are out of gas. Is this something that you have seen a lot recently, or is this just a year we're going to look back and go, wow, maybe it's the September call-ups that are not allowed. The reinforcements are not allowed, but there's something to me going on that there are so many teams here. They see the finish line. They can see the tape, all the people there. There's guys with Gatorade cups waiting for them.
And they're tripping.
They're waiting to get, and then they're just all collapsing before the finish line. What's going on?
Well, I haven't looked at it to see if it is actually worse this year than ever before, but it is an intriguing idea, and there is something different about now than ever before. There's a few things. One, we haven't had like a 2 or 3 year run of just like regular seasons. Like we have this.
Yeah.
We still have that missing, 2020 where they're just like nobody threw 200 innings, like nobody even threw like 100 innings. So like if you're a pitcher, you just don't have that. Like, oh, I've been good for 3 to 5 years. No, you have that 1 year where you pitched 1/3 of the year. And then we've had, the rule changes all happening around it. The ball changing is all happening around it. And then the last thing that's coming to a head is, we used to have starting pitchers used to go around 6 and relievers went 3. And starting pitchers had a earned run average, ERA that was about a run higher than relievers. And the nerds looked at it and said, well, that doesn't make any sense. We need to throw more relievers because they're better. And so over time, we've come to this point now where starting pitchers throw 4.5 innings on average and relievers throw 4.5 innings on average. But if you look at the numbers, what we haven't figured out is how to keep those relievers healthy. And we haven't been doing this for a very long time. You know what I mean? We haven't been pushing bullpens this hard for a very long time. What we might be in the middle of figuring out is if you throw relievers for 4.5 innings at a time, and also the new rule where you can't just option them down and get a fresh arm, like they used to just keep optioning, just have 3 extra relievers that you keep bringing up and optioning down. The combination of all those trends could be related, just a lot of fatigue in those bullpens. And I think that's a big part of what you see when you see a team collapsing in September is just the bullpen not being able to hold any leads.
Well, I got to tell you, I love doing this every week because you make this show flat out smarter. And next week when we talk, it's postseason. We're talking postseason. Are you excited about that? I mean, it's a tournament. It's truly a tournament now.
I like that it's not one game anymore. I know that was kind of fun, everything's on the line, blah, blah, blah. But like one game, like I remember, the A's played so hard and got into the postseason. It was just like one game against the Yankees. It's like throwing Liam Hendricks in the first, and here we go.
How'd that work out?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I like that they have 3 games at least. I'm also interested to see how those bye teams do, because there are baseball things that can go away in 3 days. Your maximum speed, your maximum bat speed, they can go away in 3 to 5 days. So if you're sitting for 5 days, I hope you're throwing that machine on really high velo and staying warm, because it would suck to take 5 days off and then have that post All-Star break. Oh, right. Yeah, that's what 98 looks like. So interesting to watch the bye team, see how they do.
And then also next week, not only will we talk about the playoffs, but now you feel it. It's fall. It's football weather. Your beer drinking taste starts to change, right? Soon, before you know it, it's Halloween. Then it's Thanksgiving, getting into Christmas. So
I have a couple stouts to recommend next week for sure.
I love it. You have a wonderful weekend with the family, my friend. We'll talk to you next week.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, the great Eno Sarris. And that is a reality as we're here at the Athletic Club in Oakland. As the weather changes, so does your drinking taste. I know there's certain people that get more into wine, maybe a little more hard alcohol, but your definitely beers tend to change. So we'll keep you updated on that right here on A's Cast Live with Eno Sarris. And of course, Fieldwork Brewing brings you Eno Sarris. Do we have we have our little jingle? Go ahead.
Hey, A's fans, check out
The Eno Sarris Show is sponsored by Fieldwork Brewing Company. With 8 taproom locations in Northern California, Fieldwork brings you fresh craft beer direct from the source. Fieldwork will also ship beer direct to your door if you live in California. Visit fieldworkbrewing.com.
All righty, we are actually crunched for time right now before we're going to get to A's Total Access and send it up to the Pacific Northwest. Every Friday, the manager of your Oakland Athletics, Mark Kotsay, joins us. Earlier today, when nobody was here before this place got packed, make sure you come see us. We got bingo going on. We got all kinds of gifts that are going on. Come out to the Athletic Club here in Oakland. But earlier today, it's Friday, we caught up with our guy, Mark Kotsay. It's time now for the Mark Kotsay Show right here on A's Cast Live, brought to you by Nest Bedding. Check out their location, Albany and Berkeley, or you go online, nestbedding.com. Love where you sleep for your mattress, your pillows, your sheets, you name it. Use the coupon code Oakland to get 10% off your entire order, nestbedding.com. Mark Kotsay, there you are in the Pacific Northwest. How are you?
I'm great, Tony. Sitting here in the office, just getting ready to prepare for tonight's game.
Well, you know, there is an art to traveling in professional sports, especially in baseball. I've been able to do it in baseball and in football. And I don't think a lot of people realize you had a night game last night. They don't play getaway days in Anaheim. They don't do it during the daytime. They make you leave at night. And next thing you know, you're getting up to Seattle late. What is that like, and what is the key for the players who get in late? You don't get a lot of sleep, but then you got to be raring to go tonight.
Yeah, leaving Anaheim last night, we took off from LAX because the Orange County Airport, Long Beach airports that are closer were shut down for curfew. So wheels up about 12:30, wheels down here in Seattle at 2:30. And then, of course, 5 freeway, shut down, off-ramps, detours, and arrival at like 3:15 to the hotel. So, from that standpoint, understanding that it was a long travel night, a long day in itself, we give them a little bit more recovery time, a little bit more time to sleep today. So we won't do batting practice. Guys will come in later and prepare in the cage to hopefully, just allow them to get that extra, hour of rest or so.
It's just in my nature. I would love to play spoiler. I would love to look over at the other side and go, yeah, I'm going to do you wrong today. I dig that kind of stuff. Do you guys have that mentality right now when you're taking on the Mariners? Because, they're trying to make it to the playoffs for the first time since the year I got married, which was a long time ago since they've been in the postseason. Would it be nice to walk out of there and they haven't clinched anything?
Yeah, it really would be. I mean, there's a certain level of pride that goes into that, right? That you want to keep a team in your division from celebrating what we all hope for going forward in our future is to get a playoff opportunity. And so, this team, Seattle, we've seen because they're in our division over the last 2 years, the success they've had against us, the growth of some of their younger, talented players. And ultimately tonight, we're going to go out there and prepare to win a game, prepare to keep them from, like you said, popping champagne for the first time in several years for this organization.
I look at some of the guys you got going right now that I'm excited about. We talked about Jordan Diaz, guys hitting in Double-A, guys hitting in Triple-A. I don't care how old he is. Don't tell me his birthday. Tell me what he's hitting. And all he's done is come up and hit for you. What have you seen and what do you expect?
Yeah, he has hit, that's for sure. And, the expectation level, really, I'm not putting anything on this young player tonight. Sean Murphy will be off with the late night, the arrival. He's out of the lineup, and Jordan Diaz is the option to stick in the 3-hole. A young player, like you said, don't look at the age, but, look at his abilities. And really the bat is kind of carried him here. But we're actually excited, Tony, about some of the defensive things that we've seen and the growth just in the short time that we've had him up here. Eric Martins, our infield coach, has done an amazing job this year with some of these younger players. It may not be reflective in the runs saved category, but in terms of just the efficiency and of their work and the growth that we've seen in incremental progress of the development side, from a Nick Allen, even, from Vanille Machine. So, and now Jordan Diaz. This is going to be a huge comp, and it may be a comp that doesn't Jordan doesn't get to, but this kid's got some likings of a Jose Altuve. Now that's the highest of high ceilings, right? But there's some more athleticism in there that we can pull out of this kid. He's got a little bit of a baby type body that we think we can transform. and lean him out, and he's strong. This kid's strong. He hits the ball with authority. His BPs are impressive. Next to the likes of watching, Garcia take BP. So it's exciting to have a kid like that right now, and getting a chance to watch him play.
Yeah, that's some high praise there, but you love it because that's what this team needs is offense. And another guy I want to address with you, and I just watching him play, his body reminds me of a guy that you remember, Brian Giles, and that's Connor Capel. He reminds me kind of that build. And I think about his swing, kind of a flatter swing, stays through the zone. We've seen him be able to pull it. We've been able to see him flip it to the left side, doesn't strike out a lot. And I've been kind of doing a deep dive on your offense and what you're going to look like for the next couple of years, because in 2018, 2019, the Athletics were one of the top teams hitting home runs. Obviously, the home run numbers were a lot different. We weren't putting balls in humidors. The ball was jumping. Home run net difference, this year with all teams way down. So more contact, less strikeouts. Is Connor Capel it's an early to see, but kind of the guy you're looking forward to the next couple of years of how you're going to generate your offense, a player like this?
Yeah, again, so kind of two-part question, right? Connor Capel in itself, we were fortunate to grab him off waivers from the Cardinals, 25-year-old left-handed hitter that, as you talk about Giles comparison, I talk about even myself.
Whoa!
Similarities in terms of just his bat-to-ball skill, like you talk about.
Yeah.
He's not a high strikeout guy. I think St. Louis, they kind of have that in their development system. They emphasize, putting the baseball in play as opposed to swinging and slugging. They have a balance to that, though, obviously. But for Connor, last night, that at-bat he took in the 8th inning is a direct reflection of his abilities to put the ball in play against Ohtani at a point where we were really not having much success, and he grinds out an at-bat, hits the ball the other way, and then Dermis gets a hit, and we've got something going. So, I think the transition in the game right now with, like you talked about, the style of offenses, there's a contrast right now. Cleveland Indians, look at their slug. They got, two really good hitters in that lineup, in Jose Ramirez and the Jimenez kid. They put the ball in play, and they hit and run, and they bunt. So, and they're in the playoffs. And, that's something to be said in terms of, this game and where it may be headed.
You look at a lot of pitching around the game, and because we haven't had September call-ups, you see a lot of staffs, and you see a lot of teams that, unfortunately, and we're going to do a deep dive in the offseason about this because there's a lot of teams falling flat on their face as they're heading to the deadline right now. It's been a rough September for quite a few teams. I think your guys a little bit pitching are on gas. What are you guys trying to do, you and Emo trying to do to get these guys across the line, guys who are pitching more than they've ever pitched before in their careers?
Yeah, and the demand, the rigor of pitching at the major league level is night and day from what it is pitching, in the minor leagues. And even as much as you can prepare these guys from an inning standpoint, the stress level is so much higher at the major league level day in and day out. And you're right, we are seeing some fatigue. We're seeing some of these younger guys really laboring through some of their performances. And they know it, and they're digging deep right now to finish this thing, which I love and appreciate, and they'll learn from this. They'll learn that the work they need to put in has to change, or it has to intensify this offseason so that they can better prepare themselves for the rigors of a major league season. And we're doing things to help them right now and talking to them. We're having exit meetings with all the players, and addressing some of these offseason things that we feel will benefit them prior to them coming into spring training and their opportunity to make a staff here and pitch in the big leagues again.
I think about your experience, your bench coach experience, Brad Ausmus, the two of you, the amount of years that you had in Major League Baseball is amazing. And this last week or so, you got to face the best the Mariners have. You got to face the best that the Mets have. You got Shohei last night. He's on a roll. Now it's back to facing these guys with the Mariners. how big is this from a learning curve standpoint for your younger players to play against the best in the game?
No, it's great in one aspect that they're being challenged for sure. They're going up against the best. The backside of that is, if there's lack of success, you worry about what it does for their confidence. You worry about how it impacts their mindsets. But there's no question you want to go against the best. You want to beat the best, which we've had some success in that. Beating DeGrom last Saturday was a highlight for this club. And yet we're still here with an opportunity to, as you talk about, be a spoiler against this Seattle ball club, to hold their celebrations off this weekend. And we're going to have to do it against three really quality starters, in Robbie Ray and Castillo and tonight's starter Kirby. So we got our work cut out for us. And again, we probably will get, Shohei on the last day of the season.
Yeah. Well, let's end on this, as we're at the Athletic Club here in downtown Oakland. And when we air this, right now, they're not open yet, but when we air this, a lot of A's fans are going to be here. It's a watch party to watch this a Friday night to celebrate the season and to celebrate the fans and our great fans for turning out this year. Just if you could give them a message, A's fans, to tell them how much you guys have grinded and you've done everything you can to put your best foot forward in this season for these fans.
Yeah, no, first and foremost, I can't thank the fans that have come, that are the diehards, the fans that have shown us the support throughout this season. These 81 home games that they show up for means something to this club. And all these guys, whether it was, the older guys or the younger guys, really appreciate what it means to have the A on their chest as much as the fans do. And, we're going to continue to grind these last 6 days to try to finish this season on a successful note, even though as a whole, in terms of win losses, it's obviously there's a bad taste in all of our mouths from that standpoint. But we will continue to get better. We will continue to prepare and go into this off season with this mindset that we're going to identify our areas of weakness and we're going to get better.
Well, I wish I could buy you a drink. If you were here, I'd pick up your tab.
I appreciate it, brother. And it's been great this year. I really appreciate this opportunity to just get my message out, get our message out, talk about our ball club in this environment, share the things, the intricacies that go on a daily basis with our fan base. It's been great. So I want to thank you for this time.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll see you. It's not completely over yet. 3 more at home, and it's going to be special. So good luck these 3 games in Seattle, and we'll see you next week.
All right, Tony. Take care, bud. Thanks.
Yeah, I got to tell you, Mark Kotsay has been fabulous all season long. Not easy. Your first experience, right? You want nothing but success. But obviously, you take over a team, there's a lot of change. He knew that change was coming, and he knew the challenge would be there. And that these interviews, we're not going to hammer them. I mean, there's no point to. But it's not easy. You're the questions about growth and what you're going to do and how you're going to win a games and how at some point you don't want to deal with that. But that's, something you got to deal with as a manager. You got to deal with the weekly show. You got to deal with the media every single day. You got to deal with them before the game. You got to deal with them after the game. And it's a learning experience. And I got to tell you, Mark Kotsay really has he's been fantastic to us this year. So, and it's not going away. Remember, in the offseason, we don't go away. Last offseason was different because of the lockout. But normally we are on Monday, Wednesday, Friday during the offseason. We're on live from 1 to 4. Then we replay the show from 4 to 7. And then A's Cast, the big animal that's A's Cast, that runs 365 24/7. That never goes away. So we'll keep you covered with baseball throughout the entire. We always have new tricks that we throw out there during the off season. So remember, we don't go away, but we're not going away here. The Athletic Club Oakland, as you can hear in the background, we've got bingo going. and we've got prizes. We have drink specials. We have food specials. That's all going on right now as we speak. And then you can watch the last away games of the season. Just 3 left. Hard to believe. That's right. 3 in the Pacific Northwest. Then we come back home Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, with the last game being at 1 o'clock when everybody is going to play at the exact same time. A big game, as we were joking about earlier, a big game for the Seattle Mariners, as the minute they clinch that drought, the biggest drought in American professional team sports for the Big Four. I don't know about lower level, whatever. We're talking about the Big Four, the 4 that matter: Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, and hockey. The biggest playoff drought is the Seattle Mariners. Hard to believe. Beautiful ballpark, beautiful area, got money, just things have not been the cards, and they've had great players. They've had Hall of Famers during this time and just have not been able to get it to the postseason. Last time they were in a postseason, we were joking with it earlier. The last time they were in the postseason, if you were born in earlier 2001, you could be here today legal to buy a drink. Yeah, you could actually buy a drink. If you were born early in the year of 2001, you'd be eligible to be 21 and buy a drink here today. That's how long ago it was. It was the year I got married. Look at that. Jessica Kleinschmidt right there. There she is. Are you getting ready? She will be on A's Total Access, by the way. We got to talk about the Carlos Correa talking about, hey, if you want me, you got to buy me. I don't know if it's if you haven't heard it, he talks about if you're at the mall and you go in the Dior store, I buy what I want. Hey, if they want it, come and get it. Even though he's under contract, he's going to opt out. And it's going to be a very interesting offseason for shortstops. It's going to be a position where there's a lot of guys out there and going to be available. By the way, the big game that everybody's watching, it is the Braves up against the Mets. Just to give you an update of what's going on in that game. Bottom of the 4th inning right now. Ray, your Mets are down 2-1. DeGrom, 3 innings, 2 earned runs so far. Are you panicking? Because he gives up anything, you got to take him out.
Yeah, I'm panicking a little bit. I saw it was back-to-back home runs, Austin Riley and our old friend Matt Olson. So, yeah, things not looking too good for the DeGrominator.
Are you worried? Okay, the scenarios. Love scenarios.
Love it.
Let me get to these real quick. I don't think that second game is going off in Philly.
No.
Yeah, where did my Mets stuff go? Got a whole thing on the Mets. All right. Mets can clinch the NL East by sweeping the Braves.
Yep.
Mets can leave Atlanta with a magic number of 1 by taking 2 out of 3.
Mm-hmm.
Mets can leave Atlanta tied in the standings, but they hold the tiebreaker. And then the only scenario with the Mets lose control of their destiny this weekend is by getting swept. Big series, because you want to be the team that gets the bye, has a few days rest. DeGrom going tonight is kind of a gamble, I would say, because this sets DeGrom up for pitching the last day of the season if you need him. Let's say you pitch him last day of the season and you don't win the division. You now have a shot to where DeGrom would not pitch in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, it's a potential. And, of course, we talked about it earlier. Those pesky Nationals are waiting for the Mets after the series of the Braves, and they like playing spoiler. For the Braves, they go to Miami.
Can you just imagine DeGrom and the Mets, and I hate to do this to you as a Mets fan, DeGrom and the Mets failing and getting to a point that DeGrom in the postseason doesn't even pitch. And you lose out to the Padres, obviously.
It would be terrible, and I hope it doesn't happen.
But that's devastating. All this time you've saved him. All this time you've absolutely babied this guy. To then have him not be a huge part in that, that would be wild.
Yeah, absolutely. But they have a strong enough rotation that they should be able to compete competitive in the postseason regardless.
We got Stomper right here. Stomper is playing bingo. That's everything that's going on here at the Athletic Club in Oakland. Come by and see us. Drink specials good. Thumbs up on the drink specials. Thumbs up on the food specials. We got it all going here. You got it. Stomper, you're going to be here for the whole game, or Stomper's going to be here for the whole game. You can't beat that. So make sure you come down and see us. Now, if you missed any of the interviews today, make sure you go to athletics.com/A'sCast. That's athletics.com/A'sCast. Of course, you'll be able to watch this as we'll be able to put this on YouTube today.
Already on YouTube as we speak. It'll get archived right afterwards.
Okay. Do I need to get out of here?
Yeah, you got to get out of here.
All right. We'd like to thank Stomper. We'd like to thank Amelia Schimmel. We'd like to thank Jessica Kleinschmidt. We would like to thank Mark Kotsay. David Forrest is next week. And we'd like to thank Eno Sarris, brought to you by Fieldwork Brewing. Great show here today. Our last fans watch party. Thank you, everybody, for everything you've done for us in 2022. Coming up next here on A's Cast and the A's Radio Network, it will be A's Total Access, brought to you by Chevron. Enjoy the A's and the Mariners.
The Coliseum has gone by many names, but none better than the Last Dive Bar. Hi, everyone. Ken Korak here, and my friends at Last